Okay, welcome back to the Ferret Finderr Storage Box design and build mini-series, I suppose it's turning into now. So when I left it in part 1, I had designed the slip-top lid, which as you can see here has been printed. It's a really nice fit. It's got a little, I think I left 0.5mm front to back and side to side, and fits really well, good friction fit. However, I had a slight change of mind and decided that I was going to alter the way that I did the lid entirely, which I'll go into shortly. Now, locator fit meant that I needed to change the box slightly. As you can see, there's a lot of slop side to side, and because the locator tapers away to the front from where the little pinpointer dial is, I decided that I needed to just tweak the design on the internals of the box just to make them that little bit better, that little bit tighter. It's not going to be a perfect fit because obviously then it's going to be impossible to get out, so I've left a little bit of a gap around about the outside of it, but what I wanted to do was take away that real bad rattle. So easiest way I thought for doing that was to put another wedge in at the front, but this one running uphill from kind of the midpoint of the locator up towards the nose, and then with that in place and aligned, what I then went and did was raise the height on the two wedges at the side, so that would stop the lateral twist. So with those altered, I also decided that changing the height on the dividing walls inside for the little pouches would probably just make it look a little bit better and handle a little bit better as well. So they were 50mm high, so I decided to drop them down to 45, which in the printed version of it, it handles a lot better, it feels a lot better, so I'm quite happy with that decision. And then when it came to printing, the fit was good as well, so I'm really happy with how the box has ended up now, and that to me is now a finished product. I'm happy with how it is, I'm happy with the tolerances, I'm happy with the measurements, so it was just a case from there of sorting the lid out. Now you can see that at the top I've altered the top of the box slightly. There it is running uphill there to the front of the locator, and you can see hopefully the difference between that and in the first test fit with the older style, that it's a lot better, it's a lot more snug, there's not as much wiggle room in there. With the lid, I decided what I was going to do was then go for a sliding top rather than the slip top, so more like the Hornady WMR and HMR bullet boxes. So I decided to make a little prototype. This is about cufflink box kind of size that I'm making, so there was no point making one full size when it was only a prototype. So what I decided to do, I was playing about and trying to work out the best way of making it. So the decision was to go for, but with having 2mm thick walls on the box, was to make a 1mm channel on the two long edges and what we'll call the back, so directly opposite the open side, and then obviously the open side wouldn't have a lip at all, and then it would go back to the 2mm wall thickness around the top, so there'd be a 1mm recess in the top of the box. With that recess there, what that meant is that the lid itself has to be 1mm shorter than the length of the box because it's sitting under at the back end, and 2mm narrower, and then I did build in a small amount of tolerance as well, so that it wasn't a tight fit right the way down. To combat the lid being too small with having those tolerances in and sliding out, the little bar that I've got on the lid to help open it and close it with, that is then a perfect friction fit to the outside edges of the rails. So when it does pop shut, when it's made in the same colour plastic, it's actually quite difficult to tell without really looking at it which way it actually opens, so you've got a really good perfect lip around the outside of it. These boxes actually turned out to be really quite handy, so I have printed a few in different sizes as well for little bits and pieces around the house, so I'm quite happy with the design of them. But the file itself went through the same process. It went into the slicing software and then it got sent to print. Now, I have been posting about this design process a little bit on one of the ferreting groups on Facebook, and there's been a little bit of interest in people wanting to buy these boxes. So what I've decided to do is, when I've got a fully working prototype that I'm happy with, they're going to be torture tested by myself, which will be a lot of fun. I've got a few things lined up for them to try and destroy them and see how much abuse they'll hold up to. If they come through the torture tests with a decent result, then I am going to offer them for sale. So I will keep people posted about that as and when I decide to do it. So with the box off the printer, you can see there the channel recessed into the top edge, and then the lid just slides straight in, and then a little click as it goes into the friction fit there on the top. And it holds up really well, so I'm quite happy with the way they were. So I went back then into the design software to alter the lid on the main box. So I've already done all the alterations that I wanted to do to the box itself, so it was a case now of making a new lid. So it was making the recessed lip to go around the top, which would then get grouped onto the main part of the box itself, and then making the sliding lid part to fit the recessed channel. Now, having printed them, they do work, they're great, they're a good fit. I am going to play about slightly with the dimensions and see if I can get the tolerances just that little bit closer without affecting how nice it slides in and out, but just to see if I can get it to hold up and hold in that little bit tighter. Like I say, it's a good friction fit anyway, but it never hurts to be a little bit more secure sometimes. So I think obviously with the value that there are in the collars and the locators, the last thing we want is for the lids to start coming open when they're in transit, if they're being rattled about in the bottom of a bag with a load of nets and a couple of thermos flasks and a bag of sandwiches and whatever else might be in there. So I'm going to play about with the tolerances a little bit more before I'm fully settled on the final measurements. But essentially it's all working, and it's looking, in my opinion, it's looking pretty good. So that was the rail finished. It's now a case of making the lid. The lid is 3mm thick, because with not being in the rigidity of being built in a box, I wanted it to be that little tiny bit thicker than the box itself, just so that it held up a little bit better under use, because it's going to be under a bit more strain than the other sides, which, like I say, they've got the benefit of being in a structure to hold them in one piece. So making it that little bit thicker just reduces the risk of it twisting or bending. It just gives it a little bit more strength to the lid itself. So with that in place, it's a good fit. So everything goes back to the printer again, gets sliced up, and then it'll go through the same printing process as before. So the boxes themselves are taking around about 22-23 hours to produce, something like that. So it's not a quick process to print them, but I think they're worth it. The lid takes around about 6.5, something like that. The other thing I did to the lid was I embossed a little triangle onto it, just as an arrow for the direction to open them, just so that at a glance you can tell straight away which way it's going to come off. So there's the final box. Like I say, there's a little triangle that I've embossed there onto the lid itself. So again, just like a cufflink size box, it slides in, and then with the bar at the top being a perfect fit to the side rails, it just clicks in place. So, like I say, those tolerances just need to be tightened up a tiny bit, because it's, in my opinion, it's just still a wee bit too loose, so it's going to be sort of 1/4 mm here and there, just to get a slightly better fit. And then, as well, obviously the locators are a much better fit with the increased height. Played about with my own ones, and I've decided why not put the logo in the side of them. So hope you're enjoying that. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for the torture tests.